still want to do it, just so it's coming.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the March 24, 2023 meeting of the Rotary Club of Beaver Creek. I want to thank our greeters, Jonathan Hebrank and David Brandenburg, Eric Marcus, our ticket master, and I saw Don Adams helping out with that, Pete Bales, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Zwick for our great programs. And thanks to Jim Gundel for handling our website duties. I believe Denny Jarvie will provide an invocation for us.
Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon. Would you please join me in prayer? O Lord of the universe, Rotarians worldwide acknowledge your power and your expectations that we be of service to mankind. Let us renew our obligation to fulfill that expectation, and let the return of spring lose our growth in the world and around us for our new commitment to help others in our community, our nation, and in the world. With the power, influence, and wealth that we as leaders in this place most certainly have, let us always remember that those are blessings from you, and that charity is no more than filling a decadent and golden rule as much as your richer yardstick had in any bank account. Amen.
I guess you can stay up there. So, our speakers going to use the microphone?
No, they won't lose it.
Okay. So we're going to go and I'm going to pass this back to Denny here for four-way speech test or speech participants. But is the microphone okay? Can you guys hear? Oh, again.
Well, terrific. You're in for a treat. You know, every year we hold a four-way speech contest at Beaver Creek High School, and we have all of the participants here today, along with a parent as well as their coach, and I'd like to introduce them to you right now. We have Yahoo. He's a civil servant over at Wright Pat Air Force Base, but he is also a speech and debate coach of the team, and he has won a very prestigious diamond level award awarded by a national organization. So these folks here are absolutely well treated. You're going to hear Madison Moore here, who is our winner shortly. Next to her is Katie Tai. She came in third. Next to her is Frida Milano and her mother, Patricia. And Madison is going to be running around tomorrow and looking for a university to help her study marketing and art. And so she can't participate. But we knew that was coming because she told us. So we asked the district if we could get a substitute. And Frida has agreed to do that. She presented a really strong presentation, and you're going to hear that today. Madison, the floor is yours. Take your time. You like that?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. In 2016, Anish Kapoor created the blackest black, a shade of black so dark that it resembled the black holes of outer space. Immediately, the art world was in a frenzy as they imagined the potential of this shade, when it could lead to so many things like better optical illusions or other things. But this excitement was quickly dashed as Anish Kapoor decided to copyright this shade, preventing all artists from using it. In a humorous response, another artist created the pinkest pink, which is the pinkiest pink that has ever existed. And he banned Anish Kapoor specifically from using it, allowing everyone but him to use it. Although copywriting colors is ridiculous, this story got me thinking, is copyright laws themselves ridiculous? Are they preventing creative exploration the same way Kapoor did when he copyrighted the darkest shade of black? Well, to answer this question, let's put copyright laws through the four-way rotary test and see if they're the truth, if they are fair to all concerned, if they build goodwill and better friendship, and if they are beneficial to all concerned. So for the first part, are copyright laws the truth? And by that I mean, the basis of copyright law is that people create original works. And because they're the original ideas of the creators, those people deserve to reap the rewards of what those original works bring. But is anything truly original? Everything we create is simply an amalgamation of 1,000 different things that have come before. As the saying goes, there is nothing new under the sun. So should anyone really claim sole creation of any work? Well, I think yes, because even though works are an amalgamation of all these different things, they're kind of like us as human beings or snowflakes. Although they share so many characteristics with other things, they are unique because they have a combination that you cannot find anywhere else. As such, creators deserve to reap the rewards of their original works. But still, this does prevent creative exploration. That darkest shade of black could have led to so many things, but that was halted because of copyright. Is it fair to the people who could create great works that they can't due to these copyright laws? Is it worth the original creators reaping their just rewards if that prevents creative exploration that could benefit society as a whole? Well, we have to look at it from a different perspective. If you go to any fast fashion website, you'll see a lot of works that are ripoffs of smaller creators. These works and fashion pieces wouldn't be able to be protected without copyright laws. Smaller creators wouldn't be able to go against big companies. They wouldn't be able to compete unless copyright laws protected their original work. Therefore, I think that copyright laws are fair to all concerned, as they create an equal playing field that allows small artists and large artists to reap the rewards and to make profits. But still, do copyright laws build goodwill and better friendship? Well, because of copyright laws, in order to get certain works, people have to reach out to the original creator. I myself am an artist, and I was reached out to by someone who wanted to use one of my pieces for something they were creating. Because of copyright laws, they had to reach out to me. And therefore, we had to have a conversation about what they were doing, and we built a true relationship. This is an example of how copyright laws build goodwill and better friendship. But finally, are copyright laws beneficial to all concerned? Well, the biggest problem with copyright laws is that they prevent creative exploration. But on the other hand, they also lead to new creative exploration. People can't simply take a work and slightly change it. They have to create something completely different. And as such, copyright laws are leading to a world filled with more unique and better works. So I think that copyright laws easily pass the four-way rotary test and are good for society. Thank you.
Rita? It's this where you've got a loud voice.
Yeah.
And since this is another practice for you for tomorrow, what we can
Sunday.
Don's microphone
Sunday.
and hang on to your hat.
We all ready? Growing up in non-Black schools, I've gotten very used to the look. Now, this look wasn't just my classmates looking at me because I was insanely attractive. No, this was a look I got when certain topics were brought up, like certain topics like slavery or the civil rights movement. These looks were often looks of sympathy or guilt or just bad looks in general. And I wasn't really comfortable with this. So for the first couple years of my life, I let these small looks define me and my history. But as I've grown up and matured and found myself, I've learned that I can't let these looks from my classmates define me and my history, because my history and how I got here today is amazing, which is why in today's speech, I will be discussing the people's will to make things right. And I'm going to be doing that through the civil rights movement. And to do that, I'm going to be using the four-way test. But I'm going to go a little out of order with the questions. First, starting with, is it fair to everyone concerned? And this answer is a little complicated. In most cases, no, these weren't fair to everyone concerned, which is why most of these protests happened. But in the individual protesters, it was a fair thing for all of them. For example, through the civil rights movement, according to the Washington Post, on August 13th in 2013, there were many, many white protesters that helped join Black people in fighting for their freedom. And these white protesters were treated the exact same as the Black protesters, going to jail and being unfairly treated because they were simply involved with these protests. So yes, these were fair to everyone concerned, because everyone, even though they were getting treated bad, they were all getting treated the same because they were all fighting for something. And that leads us to the next question on the four-way test. Is it beneficial to everyone concerned? And it's again another clear yes. We can see it's clear through how we are all here today and what these civil rights movement led up to. If you do not know, most of the things that these civil rights fighters were fighting for was to be equal in each other. And this segregation didn't just happen in plain things like the bathrooms or water fountain. This was also an economic separation too. Depending certain jobs, their wages were different because many different races were at these jobs. So when segregation went away with altogether, it wasn't just the Black people in these jobs that were getting more and fair, better wages. It was also everyone that was working on these jobs, including some of the poor white people and some of the Hispanic groups that also worked along with them. So yes, it was beneficial to everyone concerned. And in the end, it helped the entirety of America. And then we're going to lead to our next question. Does it build goodwill and better friendships? And the answer is, again, a very clear yes, because in protests and groups like the civil rights movement, you saw many different groups form. For example, you have the Black Panther or the Brothers of Islam or the NAACP. Groups like this help form friendships and you can meet other people. For example, a very famous name, Malcolm X, met his wife through the Brothers of Islam. According to Britannica, Betty Shazam was at a conference for the Brothers of Islam when she first saw Malcolm X. Now, these two met and eventually fell in love. So yes, the civil rights movement did help build goodwill and better friendships because people were finding each other while they were all fighting for the same thing. And then we're going to lead to the last and most important question. Is it the truth? And the answer is clear, yes. And I don't need any sources for this. You can see that because I'm standing here today. My history in the school that I'm going to proves that these protests were the truth, because I'm able to learn with my white classmates. I'm able to learn with my Hispanic classmates, and I'm able to be here, and I'm able to use my voice to inform others and to inform the world of the greater good, or what I think is right, which is why the civil rights movements and other protests in America were the truth. These people fighting for change are the only reason that we can all be here today, that we can talk about our town and that I can talk about this. So in today's speech, we talked about a person's will to make things right through the civil rights movement. And we put this through the Rotary 4-way test. So no matter how many looks I get from my classmates, whether it be because I'm so attractive or whether it be because we are discussing certain topics in school, I know to not let these looks define me because my history and why I'm here today are amazing.
I think she'll represent us well at the district level contest tomorrow. So thank you very, very much. And on behalf of the club, thank you for participating again this year in the Rotary 4-way test. Thank you for the Beaver Creek school system to allow us to do this. And on behalf of the club, Madison, present to you a check. Frida Lozano, one for you. And Katie, Ty, one for you. Thank you very much for participating. Give her snuff tomorrow. Thanks, Dale.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Now I'd like to introduce Randy Grogan, who is one of our own. He is the Community Development and Risk Administrator for the Beaver Creek Township and Fire Marshal for the Beaver Creek Township Fire Department. And he's going to introduce the program they're going to present. Tickets? Happy Bucks?
Oh.
Okay. Happy Bucks. Yep. Well, marked out on my calendar was the Happy Bucks for today, but we can do Happy Bucks first. Who's got Happy Bucks? Don't all raise your hands at once.
So I'm very happy. My son Jeff attended RILA last weekend. And he absolutely had a ball. He could not stop talking about it when he got home Sunday and all week this week. So that Rotary experience for him has caused him to look into the high school and maybe start an Interact club. And I just couldn't be more proud of him. So that's my happy.
We're Happy Bucks. Even I forgot my dollars and Pete's gonna pay for me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, so I start off the year with the goal of quitting smoking. A lot of you probably don't know I just smoked practically forever. Quit drinking, eating healthier. Wanted to lose 20 pounds before my birthday, which is on Monday. And as of this morning, I lost 20 pounds since January.
Wow.
You do that by increasing the smoking? Don't inhale. All right.
Happy Buck because everything seemed to have worked out today because of my really good helper Beth. Get everything running. All my parents' fault. If they had had identical triplets, I could be 3 places at once.
That'll keep us up at night. Other Happy Bucks. Beth.
My daughter, I am very glad the musical is almost over. She performs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for Cinderella, Rogers and Hammerstein Cinderella. And so we're exhausted. We're ready for it to be over, but I'm really excited, really proud of her for all the hard work we're putting in. So if you don't have anything to do to come to high school, Rogers and Hammerstein Cinderella.
All right. Any other Happy Bucks? Okay.
I have 3 Happy Bucks. Thank you.
I got two happy bucks. One is for our state champion bowling team. And then the other one we learned this week that our junior Roxy is also won the state champion.
Right.
So, thank you, Paul. Any others? Shannon.
So I'm gonna throw 6 happy bucks because this is my 6th year doing RILA. I love that Pete had a good testimonial. We had all kinds of feedback from the kids. They all said, we didn't want to be here. My parents made us come. But thank God we did it because it's the best experience we had. We wish it lasted longer. So every year, people like Jay and everybody else that helps out makes the program awesome. My wife had never been. This year, she showed up and she said, this was awesome. What can I do next year? If you guys show up, I'm warning you, if you show up, you just get sucked in. I mean, it's an incredible program. We're fortunate to do it. So
Awesome. Good deal. Who else we got? Diane.
You know, my wife had a heart cath this morning and the doctor was really happy to the results, so I'm really happy about it.
See, Brandon, this is how you get happy bucks. Thank you for him. All right.
Short announcement, watch your mailboxes on April 2nd for your invoice.
You gotta bring it down, don't you? And we're on high there.
The next 2 Fridays, we will have our outbound students that we're sponsoring attending Rotary. So next Friday, I think one's coming, and then Friday after, both will be here.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Ticket drawing. Remember, half of the proceeds go to our Christmas baskets. 3, 2, 4, 7, 5, 5. Anyone? Bueller? No? It's not me, is it? It's 5. 3, 2, 4, 7, 5, 5. Great. Totally fixed. If I were gonna fix it, I'd fix it with a like $10 from there. Thank you, Jimmy. Rooting for the Joker. Understand.
So close.
Gross.
Again, as Mr. said, I'm Ray Gurgeon. I'm the Community Development and Risk Administrator for Beaver Creek Township. I'm also the Fire Marshal for your Beaver Creek Township Fire Department, so everybody's. Thanks for allowing us to come and provide this presentation on the Township's Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Before I get started, I wanted to mention that we do have some activities for the Township's 220th anniversary coming up here pretty soon. So kind of keep an eye on social media. And I think we're trying to get a hold of VP to be able to schedule something in with that. So this has been a year-long process. Been a great process. It has been over 10 years since the township did a comprehensive land use plan. And as everybody knows, you've been out in the townships. We've grown quite a bit over the last 10 years. So we're definitely due for this type of a review of the plan. For this journey, we went out and hired a firm out of Columbus, a firm called Planning Next, and along with our staff and them, they've done a fantastic job. It's been a big team effort to do this. And from our side of it, leading that team is Max McConnell. He's been doing a phenomenal job. He's actually going to do the presentation. Unfortunately, my face ended up on everything, but Max is actually going to do the presentation and talk about the journey of the plan itself. And what we're doing and the request for some public input on that. So I'll give it to Max.
All right. Well, all right. Thanks everyone for, like Randy said, allowing us to come here, tell you a little bit about the comprehensive land use plan update that we're doing for Beaver Creek Township. So first of all, what even is a comprehensive plan? In our planning mindset, it's something that's pretty common, but when we got out to the community, not a lot of people really understood exactly what it is. So to give you a little bit of an idea, a comprehensive plan, it seeks to balance multiple stakeholder perspectives and priorities as far as policy planning goes for the township. So our residents, both current and future prospective residents, our employers and businesses within the township, other jurisdictions that we are adjacent to and interact with and have shared service agreements. All these are stakeholders that have an interest in what's going on in Beaver Creek Township. How do we use our land, right? And it also prescribes short and medium range policy improvements. So it's designed to guide specifically the community development department, but really all of the township over the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, depending on how you look at it, and suggest policy changes that we can make in further service of good land use. But really, a comprehensive land use plan is a strategic guide to manage change. Land use is always changing as the population, their values change. For instance, in Beaver Creek Township, 40 or 50 years ago, it was mostly agricultural farmland. And I don't think any of those folks would have even considered selling to a developer. But now that's happening more and more as, generations pass and the next generation maybe does not want to continue farming. So the population changes. And so therefore the land use changes. And it's also a long range vision for land use. So this is, 20, 30, 40 years from now, what could Beaver Creek Township look like and what can we do now to help facilitate those changes as they happen? For instance, we have a pretty large mining operation in Phillips Company, and eventually that land will be reclaimed and turned into possible parkland. So being aware of those kind of long range changes is important as well. So why do we update? Why are we updating it now? Well, your best practice information would suggest that you update your comprehensive land use plan about every 5 years. A lot can change in 5 years. If you know Beaver Creek Township, you know that in 5 years it's really developed quite a bit. And over the last 10 years, according to census data, our population's nearly doubled. So obviously updating your plan as your population changes, as conditions on the ground change, as new laws and things are enacted is really important. And like I mentioned, the character of Beaver Creek Township has changed dramatically over the last 10 years or so since the last plan was adopted in 2012. Population nearly doubling. We've had an explosion in residential home construction and growth there. Just last year, we approved over 400 new home units in Beaver Creek Township with a population of about 8,400. That's pretty significant. So that is why we are focusing on a plan update this year. But not only those things, but there are some outside factors and internal factors that really play into wanting to do this now. If you look at neighboring communities like the city of Beaver Creek, their developable acreage is getting more and more limited as they kind of, expand out to their edges. Even Xenia, which has more developable areas certainly, but Beaver Creek Township has, a lot of key undeveloped land that we want to make sure we are both protecting and making possible for future growth in land uses in those areas. But a big focus for the land use, and something that I think was touched on in the previous land use plan adopted in 2012, but I don't think was expanded upon greatly, was the focus on protecting some key natural resources in Beaver Creek Township. So we have a number of wetlands. We have the Little Miami National Scenic River that runs through Beaver Creek Township. There's also a large aquifer that most of Greene County draws on. Greene County Sanitary Engineering has, I believe, 4 different wellhead sites in Beaver Creek Township right now. So protecting these environmental resources is really important, especially as we continue to grow. We have to be wary of development near these areas to make sure that those environments are, relatively or minimally changed. And then we got to do things like make sure that uses near, like for instance, an aquifer don't have the potential to maybe leach, for instance, chemicals into that aquifer and damage the water supply for Greene County. So these are the things that we are trying to work into the comprehensive land use plan. So I wanted to show, I thought this was an interesting comparison. This is the 2015 official zoning map for Beaver Creek Township. It shows you all the different parcels in the township and what their zoning classification was. And then here is the 2023 zoning map. So there's a couple things to note. First of all, there's a lot more roads and little sub neighborhoods and things like that you'll notice. That speaks to the residential growth that's happening in Beaver Creek Township. But it's also, you'll notice that we've done some work in the last couple of years, for instance, to define the airport as its own specific zoning area with special characteristics, right? Or that we've overlaid a highway business district over the area of 35 that has the car lots and some of the other retail and commercial space. We've tried to update the zoning map to be reflective of what we're seeing on the ground now and what we expect in the future. And this comprehensive plan will kind of give us a better groundwork to do that in a planned way over the next 5 years. So what were some of the key challenges and opportunities that we look at when you're doing a strategic plan? You're often looking at strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and opportunities for your organization. And so some of the key challenges and opportunities we identified during rounds of public engagement and through our own work with our consultants were that longtime residents, people who have been here maybe for 40, 50 years, or whose parents grew up here and they grew up here, they've experienced this rapid change of the character of the township into a more suburban rather than rural area. And new residents, we doubled in population nearly. Those new residents coming in are maybe they view Beaver Creek Township differently than some of the residents who have been here for multiple generations. And what they want out of their township might differ from what residents who have been here for a while might want. So balancing those competing images of what Beaver Creek Township should be or could be was a pretty big challenge for us. And then again, just talking about the pure population increase, it puts strain on public infrastructure. So a lot of the roads in Beaver Creek Township were great when there was a population of 4,000, but now there's a population of 8,500 roughly. Other areas are growing, and Beaver Creek is becoming kind of a pass-through between Xenia and the city of Beaver Creek, things like that. So our public infrastructure also needs to, update and change with the changing times and the changing population. So looking at how we can plan for that is another big challenge. And some opportunities that we identified, we have a couple key areas that I think are right for really taking a focused look at them and seeing what specific policy changes we could make that would accentuate their growth while also protecting, like I said, natural resources and other things. So I mentioned the Highway Business Overlay District, but also Stonehill Village is a planned unit development right in the middle of Beaver Creek Township. It's, at its final growth estimate, we're probably talking about 2,000 dwelling units in this area. So focusing on where it's at now, full development, and what we need to do in between those 2 points is something that the comprehensive plan is going to do. And then also the Valley Springs Farm area, which is just south of 35, right near Valley Road. There's a large field owned by a couple of brothers. It's been, planned to be this kind of commercial or manufacturing type space for a long time. The development just hasn't really come yet. So figuring out what can be done with that specific area to make it more attractive to the kind of development that the owners are looking for, while also protecting the Little Miami Scenic River that runs right through the property. So you can imagine that's a pretty tough sell. If someone wants to be doing manufacturing work near a scenic river, there has to be some significant protections in place. And then another opportunity, again, just in general, protecting the sensitive environments from impacts of development. Development is going to happen. We've learned in the township that if you try to fight development, you can get annexed, you can get court cases, all the way up to the Supreme Court, where they say, no, you got to let this development happen. So fighting it on that front is not the way to go. What you can do, though, is put processes in place so that when developers come and say, hey, we bought this land, we want to build a residential neighborhood here, You say, great, here are the development guidelines for somewhere close to a wetland. Here are the development guidelines for somewhere close to an aquifer. As long as you meet those, great, we have no issues. And if they're already in a comprehensive plan before the development comes, then you don't run into that trouble of, well, it doesn't say anywhere, it doesn't say anywhere in your code. It doesn't say anywhere that we need to do these things. So we're not gonna. That's an opportunity we have right now to put those protections in a comprehensive plan document. So what did we do to kind of prep for this plan, for this update? Well, we worked with Miami Valley Regional Planning and Greene County Regional Planning. Just before we even hired a consultant, we had those groups come and advise us on, hey, what's the best way to write an RFP for what we're trying to do, a request for proposals? What is the best way we can align what we're doing with any current issue or current project you have going right now? For instance, Greene County Regional Planning was in the midst of updating their Perspectives 2040 document. So how can we incorporate that into what we're doing? And they also provided some great technical expertise on narrowing our scope of our project. We had this idea, we want to update our comprehensive plan. Well, they kind of helped us focus on some areas that we wanted to really get to. And that increased attention to detail in the RFP that we ended up sending out led to, we got some really quality consultants that responded to our RFP. It was very difficult to pick between the different consultants that came back to us. But that being said, when we finally did select a consultant, there was a great understanding of the project. And so we were able to really hit the ground running with them. It led the project to be able to be completed a little bit faster because of the work we put in beforehand with those two agencies. And then as we were working into kind of our first phase for the plan, we did a lot of community engagement of our stakeholders, our residents, our businesses, like I said, other agencies that work with the township. In the spheres of local government, planning, education with Beaver Creek Schools, workforce development, environmental conservation, and diversity and inclusion. We actually put together a steering committee that had representatives from a lot of these spheres. And so they began the work of kind of taking all the raw data that we got from a bunch of surveys of our community members and crafting them into narratives and goals and objectives that we can put in the plan. So finally, kind of making sure throughout the process that we always had the final document in mind as we were working through. We knew that the final product needed to be visually engaging. It needs to be something that our average resident can read and understand. A lot of the times when you get into these technical plans, you have to be a planner to understand what's written in there. And while there are going to be some sections that, yes, it's going to get a little more technical, our goal is to make sure that somebody can pick this up, understand what the township is doing in terms of its land use, and make good decisions about, anything. Do they want to live here? Do they want to bring a business here? Are they considering purchasing land in the township? They should know, hey, from our future land use map, if you're buying here, here's what you can do. So these are the kind of things that the plan should serve to facilitate. So how are we going to make all this lofty, all these lofty goals, how are we going to succeed, right? Again, we talked about our public engagement. We did our first round, which consisted of surveys and some events like the Popcorn Festival, where we engaged people about what they thought about Beaver Creek Township and what was important to them. We're actually in the middle of our second round of engagement, and I'll come back to that in a little bit towards the end of the speech. But that is where folks are going to take a look at the materials we drafted, our maps, our goals and objectives that we came up with, and give us feedback on that. So helping us kind of with the first draft of the document, if you will. And again, throughout the document, throughout the process, keeping our focus on protecting important natural resources like the Little Miami River, all of the wetlands in Beaver Creek Township, our aquifers, and things like that. We think that having a future land use map, again, a map that shows over 5 to 10 years what land will be used for in Beaver Creek Township, having it be transparent and accurate, which is what we expect to do with this update, it's going to make decisions for residents and prospective residents easier and more accurate, right? They're going to know by looking at our map what's going to be going on in 5-10 years maybe, and can make decisions for the future, which is important for well-managed development. And then again, oh, sorry, I must have, here again. So again, I think the biggest thing that the community plan will do for the success of Beaver Creek Township is going to provide a range of specific goals, objectives, and actions that are going to lay out how we can achieve all these lofty ideas that we're putting into the plan. It's one thing to say, yeah, we want to protect our natural resources. It's another thing to say, so what we'll do is we'll put language in our zoning resolution that makes an overlay district for the FEMA floodplain and says you can't develop within X feet. It's taking the theoretical and making it practical. So we've done a lot of work to make that section of the document really robust. And then finally, leading into how are we going to make it happen is we have to implement the plan. When I was getting my master's in public administration, they warned us off a lot about, hey, you guys will do projects, you guys will do reports, and it will sit there on a shelf and no one will use it. That's a thing that can happen when you're doing this kind of work. So we wanted to make sure that didn't happen. We wanted to make sure that every part of this plan had something that says, here's how you make it real. Here's how you make it happen. One part of that is, again, making the document easy to understand by residents, visually engaging, so that they can engage with what we're doing and understand what we're doing and the intent behind it. But also so that in the future, once the plan has been kind of adopted and is in practice, we can point to it as a, someone says, hey, I'm considering doing this. Have you checked out the comprehensive land use plan? We're confident that it will give you a lot of the information that you need. So that's part of the implementation. Part of what we did to help implement this plan is we're bringing certain stakeholders in earlier, right? We wanted to, at that draft stage, the second round of engagement, get a couple of key stakeholder perspectives on, how is this going to affect you? If we enact this policy, how is that going to affect you moving forward, your day-to-day operations, to get a sense of, well, does this really make sense? It makes sense to us, but does it make sense to the end user, kind of a thing. So we've also included a lot in the plan, or some aspects of the plan that really talk to how our staff and other members of township administration can increase our knowledge, skills, and abilities that are going to help us implement this plan. So for instance, learning certain geographic information system skills that help identify floodplain boundaries, or how to read a geotechnical report and things like that. Adding these to our kind of repertoire of skills and abilities is going to allow us to make sure that when plans come through, that we can see for ourselves if they match the comprehensive plan, rather than allowing or requiring someone with advanced technical knowledge to tell us that it does that. And finally, the big part of implementing this plan is actually updating the township zoning resolution, or zoning maps, actual policies and procedures through resolutions and amendments. That is going to be the real meat of this work. It takes, it can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months to, from the drafting of this language to its eventual inclusion in the zoning resolution. So making a plan for not doing it piecemeal, not doing a little bit at a time, but doing a large, focused effort to change the zoning resolution is a big part of how this plan is going to be implemented successfully. So all that to say, we are actually still in the midst of our second round of public engagement till the end of this month in March. There's a QR code rather on the screen right now. It will take you directly to the online activity that we have. And there's actually some on your tables as well, if you want to take them and share them with other folks that you think might be interested. It's a pretty robust activity. You could spend 5 minutes on it, or you could spend an hour on it if you really knew what you wanted to say and had a lot of opinions. It talks about all the different goals and objectives we have, and you can comment on each one of those. And then it shows you the future land use map as we have it drafted. And you can put little points of interest that are important to you, why they're important, what should be changed or kept the same. So I really would advise, or I guess request from everybody here, that if you work or play in Beaver Creek Township, that you check this out and tell us what you think, because we really do want to know. We want to incorporate in this plan to make it the best it can be. So I appreciate everyone's time very much for letting us come and talk to you. If you had any questions, I'd be glad to kind of answer them while I'm up here. But otherwise, for more information kind of on what's been done in the past with the plan, looking at, for instance, old steering committee, PowerPoint slides and things, you can go to thecommunityplan.org as well. Basically stay tuned to that website for updates, and for eventually when the plan is passed, it'll be put there as well. So thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
They have questions?
Sure, yeah.
So again, not to get into the weeds too far, but I know that in the past, we've tried to limit the amount of development. Again, legally, there's ways to fight that. And so instead, if we embrace that development and counted more on the newer developments to be the burden to help update the infrastructure that can't support the new developments. Does that make sense?
I think
so. In other words, you would say, you know, if this property is rezoned other than agricultural, that new zoning comes with the burden of everything that it is now putting out into the community. It has to deal with that. Whereas right now, it seems like we're just absorbing that into an infrastructure that can't support it.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that characterization of what's going on right now. I mean, we bring new residential developments through a regional planning process where the Greene County engineer, sanitary engineering, a lot of technical agencies review it and say, hey, this isn't, you know, your current infrastructure is not going to support this. You need to put in a right-hand turn lane, or you're going to have to upsize your sewer pipe, even though you only need an 8-inch sewer pipe. In order for the rest of the development along Trayvine to occur, for instance, you need to put a 12-inch sewer pipe through here. So I think some of those conversations do happen now. It's maybe not as visible to the public because it happens in a county regional planning meeting rather than like the zoning commission meeting where they approve the new residents. But I would say that those discussions happen for every new development that goes in. It's more when you get into the single residential lots, right? Somebody's got 5 acres of agricultural and they decide they want to split it into 4 or 5 lots and sell it off, maybe to their kids, maybe just to, you know, a home site developer. That's when you start to get into, hey, 5 new homes on a single lane road that maybe was designed to have a bunch of 5-acre. That's where you start getting into those questions. And to give you an idea of how we're starting to address that with the comp plan, there's actually a piece in there that talks about requiring traffic studies for any new development, regardless of whether or not it's going to hit the regional planning process or not. So to give you an idea, it's something that we're thinking about where we can try to incorporate that into areas where it's not already incorporated into the process. Yeah.
So like, again, Mike, not to hold up too much time, but right out here on Germany Trayvine, when I moved in there a couple years ago, there was moderate traffic. Now the traffic is so heavy that, I mean, coming out safely is virtually impossible at some parts of the day. And so, like I said,
well, and I don't want to talk too much about the city of Beaver Creek because I can't, you know, I can't.
You know, and like you said, the sewer system that has needed updates for quite some time, adding additional burden to that doesn't help that problem. You know, I mean, so like I said, to me, there's more in the background that's going on, that there's a lot of money that needs to be spent, that those things are just making those even worse problems.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know if we do have time for questions. If not, that's okay. But if anyone else has any, all right. Thank you again for your time today. I appreciate
it. Thank you so much. And as is our custom, we will donate a book you guys have signed to the Beaver Creek Community Library. Waffles and Moki. Okay. You're what? They waffle people?
There was no.
Max couldn't make a decision. He was waffling and I was waffling. All right. So next week, greeters Shannon Graham and again David Brandenburg. Our speaker will be Letty Hall from Greenbucks. Please keep an eye on BeaverCreekRotary.com and Facebook for upcoming programs. And we're going to reschedule our board meeting. So if you were here for the board meeting, keep an eye out for that. Anything else for the good of the club? So I'd like to again give a round of applause to our students who came here. Thanks for making this happen, Paul. Keep that school district going. All right, so we can stand for the pledge. And, if township folks will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which is standing, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Gentlemen, have a good weekend. All right,